This is Spotlight Omaha. Spotlight Omaha is a local podcast that highlights local businesses and influential movers and shakers in the Omaha business community. Spotlight Omaha is brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Now, from the Pyramid Contractor Studios, the host of Spotlight Omaha, Jimmy Allen.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome inside the Spotlight Omaha podcast, where we take you around the city of Omaha, introduce you to local business owners, influential figures, and people who are making an impact on our community today. We are brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing is a locally owned marketing firm that can put your business at the top of Google searches, enhance your social media product, and build you a brand new website. Check out pixelfiremarketing.com for more details today. Joining us inside the Pyramid Contractor Studios, Daniel Anderson with Stratum Productions. Daniel, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Oh, man, thanks so much for having me on.
It's the easiest question we'll ask you. What is Stratum Productions and what do you guys do?
Absolutely. We are an event management company based right here in the Midwest that primarily partners with corporate and association event planners to host impactful events anywhere in the U.S.
You guys offer a ton of services. You guys bring podiums to events. You could provide microphones.
Absolutely, yeah. We like to say that we're the turnkey provider, right? We can help with pre-event strategy, like what's your goal for this event. We have a team that can sit down with you and map all that out, attendance, management, attendee experience, all the way to the audiovisual, the staffing, everybody on site, and then post-event follow-up.
You guys offer a ton of different things, from lighting as well to backdrops, etc. Is there anything that people are usually surprised that you offer that people may have not thought of a company like Stratum would provide?
I don't think that there is anything. We've kind of niched down into it, right? Sure. We're just really a turnkey provider for a corporate event planner. So I think that that's the biggest surprise, is that there's companies that like us that exist. Yeah. I think everything that we do is a surprise to a lot of people because they're like, oh, there's companies in the Midwest that actually do that. I was just...
You mean these chairs and these cameras weren't here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This didn't just set up magically. I was just on a flight back from Salt Lake City, and I was sitting on the plane talking to a gentleman. He's like, wait a second, so you're from the Omaha area? And I said, yeah. He's like, I didn't even know anything like that existed out here. So I think that's been...
all the major events that happen in the
city. Right, yeah. People just assume that it's set up.
Berkshire Hathaway, sir.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's some massive events in the Omaha metro.
You guys have done events outdoor, indoor, big events, small events. When we talk about the extreme weathers in Omaha, obviously you get the massive cold and the hot and then random 50-degree days.
In the middle of January.
When we talk about business and busy time versus slow time, is it usually fair to say you guys are busier in the warmer months? Or when we have as many large buildings in the city as we do, is it get a little bit busier during the colder months because everyone wants to be inside?
No, that's a great question. And it's kind of evolved after the pandemic. COVID has really changed everything in our industry, because before COVID, it was a lot of spring and fall events. Corporations would do sales kickoffs, corporate kickoffs, those types of things earlier in the year, and then close out the year with those types of things. Since COVID, the prices have just really elevated, I would say. So we're seeing more of a trail out of that spring and fall time and through the summer to take advantage of venue prices, lower rates at from other vendors and partners like that. So there's really no rhyme or reason to it anymore. We can set a strategy, but that strategy is useless until we actually make contact with our clients and partners and figure out what they need.
What does that process look like if somebody is looking to rent out, like, because you guys have done events at giant venues like Baxter Arena, smaller venues like outdoor concerts and things like that. If somebody is interested and they want to contact you, how do they do that, and what does that process look like? Absolutely,
yeah. So it's as easy as you could Google us, Stratum Productions on Google, go to our website, fill out a form, call us, any of those types of things.
Phone number?
That's a really good question.
We'll get it for you.
Yeah, that's right. We just changed the phone number, so sorry, that's not on the top of my head at the moment. But ideally, you should be looking for an AV partner 4 to 6 months before the event even happens. Right now, we're actually telling people to go earlier than that because a lot of people are struggling with in-house AV from the price point. And once you sign a contract with a hotel, you're really locked into using that, or they're going to price gouge you a lot. So 4 to 6 months before their event, if they reach out, we'll do a pre-event kind of conversation kickoff call, figure out if we're a good partner for you, and then we start rocking and rolling from there.
How many people is that surprising news to, that they can't call a hotel or a company like Stratum 4 days before the event.
It's actually really surprising.
Okay,
That's probably my biggest heartache as the business owner is a lot of people think that this can just magically appear in a week, and it doesn't work that way. From staffing to sourcing,
for any company. By the
exactly right. Now, don't get me wrong, we've done it. We've done a lot of high profile events in less than 48 hours.
Sure.
Sometimes that's just the nature of the beast. We don't love doing that though because
it doesn't allow you to provide the quality that you're looking for.
Exactly right, and we can still provide a high quality. There's just not as much redundancy and safeguards put in place, which is ultimately a risk to the event.
When we talk about planning it out, and we talked about the early step, getting a hold of you guys, setting it up, I'm going to make an educated guess here. It's probably not just one phone call. We'll see you in 6 months.
Exactly.
What does that planning process look like for you?
Absolutely. So once a client contracts with us, decides that we're a good partner and a good fit for them, we really have another kickoff meeting. Say, hey, here's our process, here's our plan. Depending on the timeline of the event, let's say we're 6 months out, we might have a monthly touch point with them every month. And as we get closer, we'll have things like content review. That's something a lot of people don't think about. What is the content coming in? Do I have a keynote speaker that's coming in? Are they bringing their own presentation? Does that match the branding of the event?
Because you guys offer laptops as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot of times those presentations are on there.
Correct. Yep, it's turnkey, and that's something a lot of people don't consider. Is okay. Well, I'm spending all this money on branding and marketing for this event. Have I thought about the presentations matching that same branding, right? So we can have a lot of those conversations early on in the game, make sure everything works. We always joke that 2 weeks out, we like all the content because we can put it in our machines, we can test it and everything. That way it's my fault on the show side and not your fault.
Sure.
When you walk up with a thumb drive saying, hey, here's the new presentation, I go on stage in 2 minutes.
When I say transforming lives through unforgettable experiences, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think that's actually, it's goosebumps, right? Because that's
when I read it, I went, "Oh, that's good."
yeah. I mean, for us, it's more than an event, right?
Sure.
Whether it's and a lot of corporate events catch flack because they're like, oh, this is
because you remember the bad ones,
right?
But
exactly.
Those ones that are great,
exactly.
You remember for a long time.
And for us, it's let's say you're hosting a sales kickoff as an organization. We really believe that the AV is a conduit for somebody to have a life-changing experience in there.
Because that's the goal, right? Ooh and ah.
Exactly right. It's ooh and ah, but let's get some information in somebody's mind that they can go out and change their family's life, right? A sales kickoff is phenomenal for us, and we use that as an example a lot because maybe it's a new sales rep coming into your company. They're nervous. They don't know what they're going to do in your company, but they're hungry, right?
Yeah.
The information that you can relay to them, that impact could literally change that family's life. They could go out and be the highest performing employee for you. They could change their family's life. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The information, the inspiration, all those types of things. So from those types of meetings all the way down to just executive board meetings, we do meetings as small as 35 people for executives in a lot of companies that we work for.
Do you have a maximum number that you guys can max out at?
As far as attendee, it's really going to be based. Our sweet spot is really like that 3,000 down to 1,000 person conference.
For
so
the larger ones.
yeah, exactly. We just helped with a conference in Salt Lake City that was 24,000 people. So that was a 5 day, 6 day event.
3.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there were 52 breakout rooms, one general session room. And it was a great time. Our team went out there and executed on a high level and gave people an experience worth writing home about.
That's interesting because you're from Ogallala. You guys are based out of Lincoln now, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But you do a ton of work in Omaha. We just referenced some of the places that you've done it. When you opened this business up, was the thought scale nationally, or did it just naturally progress and grow to that?
Yeah, I'm a visionary at heart, so
Sure.
it was
to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. To go out and get punched in the face every day as a new business owner, you have to have something out there dragging you to a purpose. I knew that the Omaha Lincoln market could serve a lot, but I knew that we couldn't make the impact that we wanted to make just here. Sure. So I knew from the start we had to figure out a way to go nationally.
Wow, that's awesome. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a pie chart or anything, but when we talk about doing business locally versus doing business nationally, what does that look like today, and where would you like to see that grow to?
Yeah, it's always interesting. In our industry, we always joke, because I've got a lot of friends who own other production companies across the country and even North America, and we always joke that we never work where we live. So I would say we probably do 15 or 20% of our work locally, and the rest of it is outside of Nebraska.
Surprising to you?
That was surprising to me when we first started to see that trend. I was like, man, that's really weird. Yeah. And then I started talking to these other people, and I'm like, no, that's totally common. A lot of clients will move outside of the local area to go somewhere else. And luckily for us, we've got a really
if
good.
somebody shows up from an event outside, they go, "Where'd you get that?"
Exactly,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Luckily,
I guess that makes sense. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, we've got a good relationship with the Omaha CVB,
Which is
the Visitors Bureau here in Omaha,
yeah.
and we're really working to bring more people to Omaha. Like, I love Omaha.
Seems to be a really concentrated effort across the city.
Exactly, yeah. Tourism dollars, conference associations, those people coming in, they're all looking for high value production partners, venues, those types of things. And Omaha has so much to offer for them, and we're so centrally located. That's why we've chose to stay here.
Sure.
Is we can get to California just as fast as we can get to New York, just as fast as we can get to Florida. Whereas some of our friends that have companies on the East Coast, man, that's a 4-hour change to get to the West Coast.
Right. Epley Airfield, get the international
That's right. Get that thing going.
We're catching up with Daniel Anderson of Stratum Productions here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. I want to talk about. I want to go a little bit more in depth about what you just mentioned about. I know multiple people that do what we do across the country, because that has been the one thing in this room that has blown my mind, is whether it's a roofer, a deck builder, an insurance agent. There always seems to be a camaraderie within their profession, right? And I think my opinion about business before we started doing this podcast was it's dog eat dog, it's cutthroat. You got to give the best bid or do the best work, because there's everybody scrapping for scraps at the table. But everybody we've talked to is like, one of my closest friends is this person that does exactly what I do, 45 feet away from where we do it at.
Yeah.
Was it surprising to you about how within your field, how open people are to being help and give advice and things like that?
I mean, it was surprising after a little while, and we had to go through kind of a big group of people before we'd start to get good advice.
Sure.
When you start to get advice locally from other competitors, it gets a little bit more challenging with that, just because you're competing for the same business, basically. Yep. So I knew, man, I bet you we were a year old as a company, and I reached out to Stratum Productions out of Lidditz, Pennsylvania. That's right. I found them I just Googled. I was like, I love what you guys do. And I sent Chris, the owner, an email. I said, I just need help.
Yeah.
And I remember he gave me his phone number. He said, ask me whatever you want. Literally, how much money I make, how we price things, how we do X, Y, and Z.
Your eyes got big when you said that. You're still surprised about that.
Well, I still remember we were at our friends having dinner, and he called. He's like, hey, I just want to check in and see how you're doing.
That's incredible.
So, and that was probably the biggest piece for me. And I think that was refreshing to know that there's other people who are willing to get in the trenches with you. And still to this day, I mean, I bet you I talk to Chris once or twice a month, and we've been able to go out there, see him in person, but we've just continued to grow that network. I'm a big believer in reducing your time horizon. I love to read, right? I talk to a lot of people about reading books.
Just got a brand new book that's sitting on my desk.
Exactly.
Today,
for $20, you can take somebody's life experience and download that.
Yep.
Right. And that it may have taken them a lifetime to get to that goal.
More than $20.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It may take you a year to do the same thing. So that collaboration has been key for us over competition.
Talk about doing business nationally, but you guys just did a ribbon cutting for your new location in Lincoln. Why was Lincoln the right place to open up the business?
Yeah, Lincoln is home for us, right?
Sure.
We've been there. We're actually in the process of moving closer to the Omaha market for warehousing and those types of things, just to be closer to the airport, because that demand has been much higher to get outside of the Omaha area. So that ribbon cutting was just key for us. We went through a pretty strategic rebranding last year. Just wanted to get that information out and get that information into the right hands.
Your dad, you're a husband, you're a business owner, you travel a lot. But you mentioned we don't do a lot of work where we live. Is that difficult for you?
Yeah, I mean, it can be. And sometimes we just produced a conference in Lincoln for a great client of ours, actually. And I was home at 11 o'clock every night and gone at 4 a.m. So even if I was home, my kids were like, "Hey, isn't Dad still here?" Right. And my wife is like, "Yeah, he is. You're just not seeing him." Right. So sometimes it is honestly easier to go somewhere else and do the work, because you can set that hard expectation, that hard boundary with your kids.
My 3-year-old cried when I left this morning.
Yeah,
I totally understand.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things, and they may not understand at this age, but they will as they continue to get a little bit older.
What has it been like? What has the response from Lincoln been like since you opened the doors? I saw the pictures from the ribbon cutting. There was a ton of people in attendance. What's the response from the community been like?
Nothing but support. Like Lincoln is an amazing town, city. We've been there for, I think we lived there 11, 12 years at this point. It's the biggest small town you could ever live in.
Sure.
You could ever ask for.
It's college town with kind of a city feel.
Exactly, and that's certainly home for us. So love all the partnerships we have in Lincoln.
Where in Lincoln is the building?
So we're off of Westo, right?
Oh yeah, right downtown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's been great for us to be located in the Lincoln market.
When we talk about where your leads come from, is it usually from people trying to set up at events? Is it from the event space itself? Hybrid of both? What does that look like?
It's a hybrid. I would honestly say a lot of it is referral. So if somebody works with us and has a great experience, they're gonna be like, "Hey, you should go talk to Daniel.
Sure.
That's a great person for you to talk to."
Word of mouth is fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah. Word of mouth is probably 95% of our business. Or somebody has referred or seen us on a show site, seen a road case, something like that. It's very rarely somebody will just cold reach out to us and say, "Hey, we want to work with you." It's more, "Hey, we heard great things about you. Let's have a conversation."
If you guys have done things, we've talked about showcases and sales and things like that. But you guys have done concerts too and outdoor events like that. If we're talking about growth over the next 3 to 5 years, is that something like live events like that kind of where you see the most room for growth? Is it in the corporate space?
I think we're going to see more growth in the corporate space for us personally. There's a lot of great companies in the corporate the concert area. All over. And that's more relationally
Is that a
driven.
personal preference then too? Also?
No, I fell in love with music probably in middle school. So if it was up to me, I'd go be a rock and roll guy all day.
There you go. Yeah.
It's one of those things though that it started to kind of get ruined for me. Right? It's like
you're seeing the magic.
Man, I'm working 24-hour days.
Yeah.
I kind of hate my life a little bit. This sucks.
Sure. But you're supposed to be, but you're around 3,000 people.
Exactly. You're supposed to have a great time, and you're like, all right, it's time to probably have a little bit of a change. So keep that hobby and that love outside of what we do.
I was having that discussion with somebody last night, and shout out to Scott and Hope, I think her name was. I apologize if I got that wrong. Ran into some people that listen to my radio show at the Jays game last night, and they're like, "Man, you've got to love this." And I was like, I do, but like I'm at work right now, and and I love Creighton basketball, and I wouldn't change it for anything, and I love the opportunities that we've been given, but some nights it's like, oh, it's Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and then you're around 17,000 people they just got off work, right, and they're there for downtime and relaxation,
entertainment, and have a good time. Yeah, when you start to have to motivate yourself to go do those things, it's like, all right. Am I doing this for the love of this? Am I doing this just because I need to do this?
This is something that I think you and I will understand, but I got to ask you this question. How much of that question is going through your mind, but once you get there, you're in it, and you like that thought process goes away?
The thought process goes away because for a concert, let's say, or even a corporate show, if you have a very tight turnaround, it's game time, man. Yeah. Like if you got 12 hours to load in an entire show, you don't have time to think about that. Now, when the show kicks off, you're like, man, why do I keep doing this? You're like, why do I do this to myself? So it's really one track.
There's days where I go to do the radio station after doing this show and all my other obligations. And I'm like, now I got to go do the show. But I get there. It's almost therapeutic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just talking for a living. I'm not out there lifting lights or directing people and things like that. But it's like the hard work, and then it pays off when you actually do the job, right?
Yeah, and I think that's just how we are as human beings, right? We're gonna get in our brain about, oh, this stinks, or I don't want to go do this. And then you go, oh, this isn't that bad at all.
Yeah, and we kind of built this thing, right?
Exactly, right, yeah.
When we talk about outdoor versus indoor space, what are the biggest hurdles that you face in outdoor venues other than weather? Because I think that's the easiest one. And what's the biggest hurdles for indoor spaces?
Yeah, so indoor spaces, they have a set capacity, right? That's an easy thing to judge.
Yeah.
Some outdoor spaces, we've done a couple of shows where they say 3,000 people are going to show up, but then actually 5,000 or 6,000 people show up. So if you're
massive difference,
right, exactly, you're doubling the size of your audience. If you're not ready with more audio, PA, or more whatever that needs to be, I mean, you could have a bad show in a hurry. So it's almost, you have to be forecasting all this in your head as you move forward. Like, what are the possibilities here? They say X, but does that really mean Y?
Right.
So it's you got to keep yourself on the toes and always be prepared for those unexpected things. Outside of that, I mean, weather is kind of the biggest driver for outside events.
Sure.
You just can't control that. And
just thinking about some of the buildings that you guys have done shows in, Baxter Arena's acoustics are fantastic, but they've got a PA system in there and they know what that looks like. How many times have you shown up to do sound and going, woof. Does that happen a lot?
Oh yeah, yeah. And we have tools like there's a software called Smart that we can tune a PA, but you can't change how a room's acoustics are.
Right.
There's a room in the U.S. that we were helping set up a show, and the drum tech was hitting the snare drum in the middle of the room, and you could hear just the snare drum. And this is an arena.
Yeah.
You could hear the snare drum ringing out
so
through the
big,
entire
right?
room, and you're like, well, this is going to be fun today,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because even just that amount of volume was exciting the room to the point you're like, well,
At that point, it just sounds like somebody pounding their fist on a table.
exactly, yeah. You're like, well, we just got to get out of here alive today.
Yeah, we're catching up with Daniel Anderson of Stratum Productions here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. We mentioned it. You're a family man. You've got a lot going on at home. You're gone a lot. When we talk about building a brand, continuing to grow, opening up your actual first location, being a husband, being dad, being a boss, being a friend, being an entrepreneur, how do you balance all that?
I think I've done that poorly for a lot of the years, right? We're
That's 99.9% of the people have answered that same way.
Absolutely. 8-year-old company this May. So really not that old. I think it's setting hard boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you make a promise to your kids that you're going to go to the park on Saturday,
Right.
no matter how you feel, you better just get up and go to the park.
Tough for you to put the phone down while you're doing that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Right. My wife is the first one to yell at me. Like,
Sure.
she jokes sometimes that we need to get a hotel room on vacation that has a vault, and she's going to take my phone and put it in there and not give me the code.
I'm going to Disney in April, and I'm probably going to get that same speech.
Exactly right. Which I just get anxiety sitting here thinking about that.
Right.
Because we're judged on how fast we respond to people.
What happens if you don't answer the phone?
Exactly. Right. It's always that fear.
How many employees do you guys have?
So right now we've only got 4 full-time employees, but we've got about 170 contractors that we call in for shows.
How difficult is it for you, 8 years into building this brand, your name's on it, you've put all the work into it, to go out and hire somebody, hand the keys to the kingdom off a little bit, take your hands off the wheel? I
would say that's probably one of the biggest challenges for me as an entrepreneur.
Sure.
I'm a little bit of a control freak.
It's either one way or the other. Some people are just like, I love it, it's great.
Yep.
I can delegate, and most people are like, it's
yeah.
the biggest anxiety I face.
Exactly. I think the thing that I've learned the most is that it's the quality of the person that you hire that's going to dictate a lot of that.
I agree with that. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's one of the hardest lessons I've probably learned is to not rush into hiring people.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how they act. And are they willing to work in a warehouse for 2 weeks?
Right.
Are they going to hate their life in there? Because the warehouse where everybody starts in this industry, if you can do that well, you can do anything in this industry well.
How difficult is it for you to, I guess, not delegate, because we already asked that, but like to, is it difficult? Because what you guys do is ever changing, right? There's so many different venues.
Yeah.
How is it difficult for you to explain in layman's terms, for lack of a better word, to somebody that's new to the industry or coming in or new to the company, exactly what you guys do and what expectations should? Because we talked to a lot of contractors on this show, like HVAC people that have all these technical terms for what the equipment is, and they struggle with explaining to somebody that may be new. Is that something you struggle with also?
Yeah, and I think that's why we've changed our model a little bit and gone to a lot more contractors or freelancers.
Because they're already educated on the
well,
system.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these guys have 20, 30 years worth of experience, and they've worked for tons of different companies.
Yeah.
So they're bringing a wealth of knowledge to the table. And our strategy is that we'll put a couple of our new guys or our younger guys on that same show with them. And let's just learn via osmosis, right? Let's learn from these people who've done this for 3 decades.
Gaining experience by experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way that you can learn in this industry, in my opinion. We could sit in a room and talk about mixing sound for days. What we need to do is we need to go down to the local bar and you need to get a beer bottle thrown at your head because you have the monitor feeding back in the lead singer's.
Yep. Well, mixing sound in this room, in that room.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And
Yeah.
you will never make the same mistake twice when you feel the way that you do because you're controlling the entire environment for somebody.
Yeah, especially when you're in a room with 3,000 people.
Exactly. So understanding and learning those lessons in smaller venues and those types of things is unparalleled. We could talk about it all day. Just go learn and do it.
What is something that you know today that you wish you would have known day one starting the company?
Man, that's
that
a
somebody
good.
will throw a beer bottle at your head?
Well, yeah,
It's
no,
as simple as that?
it's the Wild West out there sometimes. I think just understanding how to filter clients, right? Because
In what way? Like what you can provide and what they need?
yeah, I think as entrepreneurs we love to overpromise and
You need every job,
underdeliver.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think if somebody would have grabbed me as a younger entrepreneur and said, "Hey, you don't need all of this," that probably would have saved a lot more heartache. because now as we continue to grow, we're having some of this trailing effect of these clients still expect X, Y, and Z out of us.
And that's not something we want to offer anymore.
Well, it's at the price point that they have. We value their event. We do all these things. We're not bad people, and we want to be able to help them, but fiscally we can't do that,
and the
right?
dollars probably don't make sense at
Exactly.
this point.
So
Yeah.
understanding how to filter and find an ideal client a lot better would be some of the advice that I give myself.
Perfect transition. What's the ideal client look like?
Ideal client for us, yeah, that's an event planning agency. So somebody who plans consistent events.
okay.
We work with a lot of clients like that. Corporate event planner inside an organization. So if you need some SOS help and you're like, I just don't know what this means,
Sure.
need somebody who's trusted to come in and help us produce an impactful event, that's it for us.
This may be a weird question for your industry, but I think it'll hit home. What's the Super Bowl? What's the Mecca? If you can produce one event, what is it?
The Super Bowl, I mean, for us, I think, man, that's a good question. I actually just asked our staff this not too long ago.
Okay.
Like, if there were 3 events out on the face of the earth that you could produce, what would those be? And I think Berkshire would be a fantastic event.
Warren, if you're listening,
That's right.
we got a
Yeah.
guy for you.
We'll get you in here. We work with a lot of our clients already that are kind of those dream clients. So,
is there a venue? Because I mean, I think everybody would love to produce something at MSG, right? Like
Madison Square Garden is one of those places. Man, like the Hollywood Bowl. I know that's an outdoor.
yeah.
That's an outdoor space,
Sure.
but that would be a great time to go do something down there. And I think we're kind of spoiled with what we've got in Omaha.
That's awesome. What's your favorite part of what you get to do?
My favorite part about what we get to do is take something from nothing and create it. Right?
Sure.
There's nothing more satisfying for me personally than sitting behind a computer and designing something 6 months in advance, and then see it actually come to real life and be developed right in front of our eyes, and watch that magic happen as our clients walk in, as their guests walk in, and just see their faces as they see something they may have never seen before.
You talked about it. You got 4 children at home. How much do they know about? Like you mentioned, they notice when Dad's gone. How much do they know about what Dad does?
They know a lot, actually. We have done a good job of integrating all of them into the company. My oldest is 11. He owns his own table and chair rental company.
Oh, okay.
So he's out there hustling already, but he knows what this is. He's fascinated by this. It's the design. All of my kids, in fact, my youngest, my 5-year-old, always kind of heckles me. He's like, "Hey, you pay me $20 to come work in the warehouse this week." So they know that there's value if they add value to
They
it.
understand that work equals money, though. Too. and that's
Exactly
important.
right. And we've done a good job of explaining to them that it's not the amount of time you spend on a project, it's the value that you add to the project that dictates how much money you make.
Is that an intent to explain that not all jobs are trading time for money intentionally, or just by
I mean, I think it's maybe a little bit of happenstance, right? I think there's a time and a place for every type of job. You have to go learn that minimum wage job. I just had this conversation with my 11-year-old. So, man, I started like $4.35 or whatever was minimum wage when I started working in a restaurant, and that probably taught me more than anything else will, because what is my time worth to somebody else for an hour? And if I want to get promoted, how can I add more value for them so I can make more money? So
I think that's a conversation that's not happening with a lot of the youth.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people who expect to come out and make $100,000 a year. Not realizing what it takes to get there, right? And there's a lot of business owners that are like, yeah, I want to pay $100,000 a year, but you have to bring $100,000 worth of value through the door for us to be able to do that.
That's a great point. When we talk about growth over the next 3 to 5 years for Stratum Productions, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so we've been really fortunate. We've really gone from $0 to 7 figures in 7 years. Last year we doubled revenue again. So I anticipate, depending on how our outbound marketing and our actual execution goes, that we could double revenue again over the next couple of years.
How often does your long-term goals change?
Not a lot, actually.
Wow, okay.
I think I've set some pretty high level
When you're
goals.
already nationwide, I mean, it's
Right,
kinda hard
exactly.
To,
yeah, I think it's more about how can we help some of the other people inside our organization get their long-term goals, and how can we set that for them?
I love that. Okay.
That's more of what I'm passionate about. It's really cool. It'd be really cool for me to pull up in a Bentley today, but it would be even more cool to watch one of my employees pull up in a Bentley.
Sure.
Because then we're taking care of them. We're putting our money where the mouth is.
I want to make this full circle. How much of that goes back to, and was the gentleman's name Chris that you talked to?
Chris Strayer,
Yeah. How much is that based off of that conversation, that start there, people helping you and wanting to kind of continue that.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I also think being a Nebraska-born kid is that, right? Like
most people in Ogallala not showing up to work in a Bentley today.
Exactly right. Yeah. But we have such a unique perspective.
And by the way, most of them don't want to.
Yeah, right. They're fine with their Ford F-150.
Yeah,
however that
no
works.
shot at Ogallala.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think there's just a lot of people out here in the Midwest that have been blessed with the ability to give before they take. But I think that there's too much of that. Like that pendulum swings too far.
There's such thing as two Nebraska.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think that's our superpower. And I don't think a lot of people think of it that way, but the kindness kills type of attitude, and we're actually genuinely wanting to help other people. Right. I think that's the biggest advantage. The conversation with Chris did drive that, because he's got, I don't know if he still has it, but people, process equals profit.
Wow.
That was in his office. And I think that I've really just kind of integrated that into how we operate things. If you have great people and you have good process, the profit will come. And the best part is that you can cycle that back into the people.
I don't know one successful business owner that talks about profit. They talk about the processes and putting things in place to make sure they're successful.
Yeah.
Because 100% out of 100% of the time, that's going to generate money.
Absolutely. And there's, I was listening to a podcast driving home last night, and
Spotlight Omaha.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one. I knew that's what what it was.
This place looked familiar.
That's right. But it was talking about if you don't have the money to help yourself, how can you help anybody else? And I think there's not enough of a conversation about profit. Everybody knows why you're in business. Mm-hmm. Why do we get into the mental warfare as business owners about feeling guilty about profit? Sure. Right. And I think that there's so much of that's back to the Nebraska way. Like, I'm not worthy of making this much money. But
that's incredible, because we've had imposter syndrome is one of the most commonly discussed things that happen on this podcast.
Yeah.
Because when you're starting out and you're an entrepreneur, you're looking up to people. You want to be this guy. You want to be that gal. You want to accomplish what this company did. And I think so many times when you first get into business, you're chasing the carrot at the end of the stick. You don't realize that when you've had enough success, you become the carrot, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then what do you do when you become the carrot?
Right.
Nobody talks about that. They're like, oh crap, I've made it to this point. I never thought I'd make it to this point, but now what do I do with this? And having a good plan and a good strategy and expecting to get there, I think is probably one of the biggest things that I'm thankful for and advice that I've been given.
If somebody out there is looking to they're sitting there and they're punching the clock, they're looking to become an entrepreneur, and they're sick of working for somebody else, they want to work for themselves, what's the best piece of advice you can give to that person?
Start. Just do it, right? I worked...
Always a reason not to.
Yeah, exactly. I was in the military for 14 years, the Nebraska National Guard, and I started this while I was still working full-time for them. And it got to the point, and it was incredibly poor timing, but 2020 looked like one of the best years we were going to have. Sure. So I resigned my full-time job in the military in December of 2019. Then the pandemic rolled in. I watched $500,000 just disappear in March. Yeah. And here I am like, what are we going to do? Right. And that forced me to just get out there and hustle. But if you've got a full-time job, just go start something on the side. See if you really like entrepreneurship, because a lot of people don't like the feeling of 2 o'clock in the morning. They're like, oh, I got payroll tomorrow, and I don't have any money in the bank account.
People that listen to this show every day are going to be sick of hearing me say this, because I say it all the time, but it's probably my favorite quote of all time. Owning a business, you have to be comfortable in situations that would kill most people. Yeah. And it truly is, because when you do open a business, and we talked about this earlier, taking your hand off the wheel and hand the keys to somebody else, not only are you responsible for you and your family now you're responsible for their family as well. And that's a ton of pressure.
Exactly. Right. And in the event industry specifically, I mean, it's high risk. Like, a person says one wrong thing that may not be wrong to them, but wrong to the client. That client could be gone forever. Yep. I mean, that could be a $3, $4, $5 million client that just walked out the door. So it's one of those things you just got to let your hands off of it.
Why is it stressful for you to hire people again?
Right, exactly, right. Yeah, everything. I have a good friend. They lost a very large client because they forgot to put the lights backstage for the walkway. $25 lights from Walmart. The message just didn't get to the on-site crew. Right. And the post-event talk down, they're like, oh, yeah, we love you, but we're gone.
That's a great point, because I didn't think about this, because everybody shows up, and when it's a good show, lights in the right spot, tables in the right spot, all the information's out on the table. You got the projectors up, keynote speaker knows where the microphone is, the podium's working, everything's great. But a lot goes into that. There's taping down wires. There's making sure safety procedures are. How often are you guys having the discussion? Because discussion one, Great show. Everything's going to go well. How often does the safety conversation happen?
All the time,
Yeah,
right?
it has to be.
This is an industry that when you're exhausted, it's really easy to get hurt or be killed.
Sure.
Stuff in the ceiling, there's weight, there's all sorts of stuff. So
Somebody else can get hurt too.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. An attendee, a light could fall if it's not rigged correctly. So the safety conversation is a lot, and making sure that we're managing people well so that we can rotate them out if they are tired or those types of pieces.
Yeah, because that's where that happens the most, right? Especially when you're doing late night events and
Exactly.
probably darker venues and things like that.
Yep.
Hey, man, we've touched on a ton of things. Anything about Stratum Productions we haven't mentioned that people should know about?
No, I don't think so. I think this has been a great conversation. Thanks for letting me be here. And
Appreciate you reaching out, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Daniel Anderson with Stratum Productions. Follow them on their website. And if you're looking to book a big event, have them come out, check out your venue, and they'd love to work with you. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jimmy.
This has been the Spotlight Omaha podcast brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. right here on all of our social medias. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you tomorrow.